It's an honor for me to be here with you today. But then again, where else would I be? You see, when Oxford sends for you to come, be you a president or scientist, athlete or poet, you come. And you come precisely because it's Oxford. What's in the name? Shakespeare once asked. If we lived in a world of iambic pentameter, star-crossed lovers, and sweet-smelling roses, then one might easily answer, nothing. There's nothing in a name, thou art thyself. When I hear the name Oxford, I think of Africa. I do because that is my frame of reference. I think of Oxonians who, for better or for worse, have left their mark on my continent, Africa. Oxonians like Cecil Rhodes, the famous colonial businessman and miner, after whom the prestigious Rhodes Scholarship, as well as the former territory of Rhodesia, now modern-day Zimbabwe, were named. Or the freedom fighter Seretse Khama, who led Botswana to independence and became the country's first president. My own country, Ghana, boasts an impressive list of Oxonians. It is, in fact, a list that reads like a primer on our contemporary politics. People like Dr. Kofi Buzia, Prime Minister in the Second Republic, Professor Kwame Nkrumah, Minister for Local Government and Rural Development in the Fourth Republic, Mr. Chachu Chikata, a prominent lawyer and former Chief Executive of the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, and His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor, the second president in the Fourth Republic. And these are but a few. I wonder how many people are aware of their stories, of Ghana's story that exists within the Oxford name. A name is a biography. It is a history of who, what, when, where, how, and sometimes even why. But history is subjective. History is the narrative of the historian. The Nigerian-American author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has spoken extensively about the danger of a single story. When I consider the theme of this gathering, a continent on the move, people, politics, and business across borders, one of the first things that came to mind was that phrase, the danger of a single story. What is the story that comes to mind when people hear the name Africa? The presentation or representation of one. That has always been the danger when it comes to how we discuss Africa. There has always been the assumption of a monolith. Africa as one country, not 54. One culture, not an immeasurable number. One climate, hot, hot, hot. Africa as one intractable reality. When you hear the name Africa spoken on television or radio or in an unfamiliar public space, when you read the name Africa in a newspaper or magazine, do you for even the briefest moments wonder about the story that will follow? Which Africa will it show? Will the story simply be about malaria, Ebola, high infant mortality and poverty? Or will it also mention the innovative ways in which these critical issues are now being addressed? Then there's M-Pesa, a microfinancing and money transfer service that relies on mobile networks, not the internet. It allows users to pay bills and school fees, to buy groceries or make cash transfers. In 2014 alone, M-Pesa, which was created and launched in Kenya, facilitated over $40 billion worth of transactions. The app is now being used in numerous other African countries as well, as in Afghanistan, India, and Eastern Europe. It should be common knowledge that in terms of mobile phone usage, over the next 7 years, Sub-Saharan Africa will be the fastest growing region globally. As early as 2016, mobile broadband connections will reach 160 million people, quadruple what it was in 2012. My own country, Ghana, is a leader in providing broadband access. Only last Monday, I commissioned into service an 800-kilometer optic fiber cable, which will provide 26 districts with high-speed access. When it comes to Africa, when it comes to the information and the images that are associated with that name, it feels as though there's a constant battle between the rural and the urban, the traditional and the contemporary. There's a tug of war between the decades during which we were supposedly lost and the ones during which we are supposedly rising. What is an Afropolitan, you may ask? Selassie offers a definition in her essay, Bye Bye Baba, and I quote, "The newest generation of African immigrants, you will know us by our funny blend of London fashion, New York jargon, African ethics, and academic successes. Some of us are ethnic mixes, e.g. Ghanaian and Canadian, Nigerian and Swiss. Others are merely cultural mats, American accent, European affect, African ethos. Most of us are multilingual. We are Afropolitans, not citizens, but Africans of the world," quotations closed. With all due respect to this new generation of African immigrants, by this definition, one could argue that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was an Afropolitan, as was Mzee Jomo Kenyatta and numerous others of their generation, including the African Oxonians I mentioned earlier. But even before them, there were others like Anton Wilhelm Amo, who is said to be the first African to have attended a European university. Amo, a member of the Nzima tribe, was born in the area that is now Ghana. He was taken to Europe at an early age and became a chamber slave to Duke Anthony Ulrich of Brunswick-Wolfenbüttel, who supported his studies. Amo earned numerous diplomas and degrees, including a doctorate of philosophy in 1734. He was fluent in English, French, Dutch, Latin, Greek, German, and one would assume an indigenous language or two, or three. The late Chinua Achebe, our literary father, was fond of recounting an old proverb that says, and I quote, "The reason the hunter is always victorious is that the lion does not have a storyteller," quotations closed. We must insist on being the experts of our own experiences, on telling our own story of the Africa we know, as Noah's Deshe did in his film White Shadow about the plight of albinos in Tanzania, and Young Kim did in his film City of Dust about the life of slums in Uganda. The world is literally at our fingertips. In 140 typographic characters, we can share even the most mundane news of our lives with complete strangers in faraway places. With a single hashtag, we can appeal to the humanity of our brothers and sisters across the globe and ask for help with a deadly epidemic or with the return of kidnapped schoolgirls. We must continue to take to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We must continue to post, share, pin, and blog about all our victories, whether large or small, personal or political. When we celebrate yet another free and fair election, we celebrate our future. But most of all, they remind us that if we want to give this moment its due, if we want to keep it from being omitted from the pages of somebody else's history book, then we must be the magicians. We must be the storytellers and the historians who claim it for posterity and in the name of our motherland, Africa. And this is why I accepted to give this keynote today to help tell our own story, the story of Africa. I wish to close with a few lines from the poem Random Notes to My Son by South African poet laureate Kyora Petse Kozitsile, or Bra Willie, as he is affectionately called. And I quote, "I have fallen with all the names I am, but the newborn I, old as childbirth, must touch the day that speaking my language will say, today we move, we move." I thank you for your kind attention, and I wish you a pleasant and productive conference. Thank you.